Today I unpacked some corms from Gladiolas that I had been saving in my garage, and then these were seed Dahlia Tubers that I saved just as an experiment. I watched a lot of videos and tried to get a lot of advice, so I think I failed definitely on the tubers, but the Gladiolas are still questionable. We'll look at those. But last year I sowed these seeds from Rhode, and they were Bee's Choice dahlias, and they're usually like the open-faced dahlias with the pollinators like, and I really thought they were really pretty. So I wanted to try to save the tubers just in case, even though this year I will plant the seeds again, and I'll try again to produce some more tubers. It was kind of fascinating that you could plant seeds in May, get dahlias by the end of the summer, and then have a little clump of tubers on top of all of that to save. So I will show you what happened. These are my little Dahlia Tubers. Okay, so there they are. They were small to begin with, not this small, and they're shriveled and very dry, so obviously they've gone over. So if I do try to store them this year, I might try the vermiculite plan instead of just wrapping them. I tried to wrap them in this kind of paper, craft paper, and then put them in a bag and put them in the garage, but apparently that didn't keep them moist enough. So I've heard of them rotting, but this is the opposite, so they were too dry. So that's that fail. Next I had the Gladiola Corms, and the great thing about these gladiolas is I actually bought them at the Dollar Tree. So for maybe a couple of dollars I had 2 packages of corms, and they were kind of interesting how the corms, I had never grown gladiolas before. I grew them in a container, and the corms produce new corms, and you kind of can pull them off and get rid of the old corms. I also have heard that you could split the corms if you want to double what you have. So I may try that in the future too. But these are still questionable, so I don't know. I'm going to plant them anyway in a container. Let's look at them. Sorry for this. Okay, so what I found when I opened them up was they're dry. They have like a papery skin around them, kind of like onions, but they don't seem rotted, and they're kind of, you know, they're not hard, they're not too soft, so they might be okay to plant. So I'm going to try them. Let's see, none of them look rotten. You can just hear the crunchy. It's kind of dry, but I also learned, see, that's actually one of the things I love about gardening. Even if something doesn't work, you always learn from it, and next year will be different. So I went online just to check to see if these are viable, and what I found was that I probably should have planted these in March, and it's May 13th. So I was waiting for the dahlias and the temperatures to warm up to 50s and 60s, which this week it's going to happen at night especially. And in the meantime, I forgot about the poor gladiolas. So now I'll know for next year, if I plant gladiolas, I really don't have to wait till it warms up. They actually like it right after the frost, apparently. But anyway, I'm still going to try. It's only 1 pot of soil. It's not going to hurt anyone if I try. Let's see. Try to get this other bunch over here. Those top ones were actually the ones that didn't produce for me last year, but I saved them anyway. And these are the ones, the new corms, that were created on old corms. So they were bigger. And like I said, I don't see, unless they're dried and dead, they still feel cool inside too from being in the box. So I'm going to plant them, and we will check and see what happens. But in the meantime, I will plant dahlia seeds again, Bee's Choice. I still have some left. And then I ordered this 1 tuber from an Etsy seller online. And again, I was a little nervous. She sent me this in March, and it was still freezing here. And look, when I pulled it out today, it does have something growing out of it. It looks very pale, unfortunately. I can't tell. That looks like the eye that people talk about, but it's very pale, so hopefully that is going to work out. I'm going to plant that in a pot, and it's called Lady Darlene Dahlia, and I learned about this from an Instagram friend. My name is actually Darlene, even though people call me Dee. So I definitely just wanted to try this just because it's my namesake. So we will plant that, And we'll update later to see how they do. But right now, I'm going to go get all the pots ready, and I'll just bring you along for that too, to show you how I fill up the larger pots. There's some grass mowing going on, so I'm hoping I can be heard. It's time to fill up some of these pots, and I just wanted to show you sometimes why being a lazy gardener actually can pay off. I don't want to use just all soil in this huge pot. This pile here is from my canna lilies. We cut them back probably 2 months ago, and we just let them dry on the ground and get soft enough and broken down a little bit. I usually will put those in pots at the bottom. And this is just ripped up cardboard. I took off my vegetable trucks yesterday that had been sitting there all winter. Over here, these are the remains of containers that never really progressed last year. And sometimes they're hard and crunchy and they're in these cups, and I just dump them in here. And I'll add that soil at the bottom as well. Also, when we chop up branches, we have chunks left over. And these are also some original branches that we chopped up, and we put these also in the garden, and they start to break up over time. So these are always good because they have sometimes worms or other kind of insects in them too that might be beneficial for plants. So that's what we do. Instead of filling up this big pot with just potting soil, because it's an expense, we just fill it halfway up at least, or about a third way up with these other materials, and then we top it off with compost and or potting soil. So I'm going to get those filled up, or halfway filled up, and I'll be back. But here's the good news and the bad news. The good news is the Gladiola Corms look pretty good. They're all in place. Last year I had followed the directions from a lady online, and she said to put them about 7 or 8 inches down, and that would prevent them from flopping over when they grew tall. So I'm going to do the same thing again, and this is the spacing that she recommended, and that worked out fine last year. So I'll just cover those with soil up to the top, and those will be ready to be updated on maybe in a while. This one, unfortunately, this is my lady Darlene, and when I went to plant it and leave the eye up, this cracked off. Now, of course, it kind of reminds me of when a potato has an eye and they grow a piece, and I'm hoping that the little eye can still grow now that it's in soil. I'm really hoping so, because Lady Darlene was not an inexpensive tuber. So that was my first try at tubers. And I don't even know if I should stick this back in the ground either, but I'm going to try it. Maybe just, I don't know. And really, it's all an experiment to me. So let's see. That'll probably die, I'm sure, but it's still worth it to try it. So those are my 2 Gladiola and Dahlia experiments from last year. But what I do have to say is I have a real hard time with anything very fussy. I don't know if I just don't have the patience or the intensity of all the work that goes into it. I really hated the ideas of dahlias where you have to, I'm in 7A, Rhode Island, and I really hate the idea of having to dig things out of the ground and put them in each year. So I just avoided them for a really long time. But the seed starting seemed easy, and they produced the tubers, so it was kind of exciting, and I would like to try it again. But I do have a little bit of a microclimate along the back of my south wall, so I may just grow them and then try to stick them in the ground this year and cover them up that way and see if I can protect them and if they grow back. And that way it'll be not fussy, and it's something that I can handle. So until the updates come, thank you for watching.